So I'll start a video with a pretty cool demonstration on what would be possible if certain game settings and game engine settings would be exposed to server admins. Okay, I'll start with the demonstration. So we have this green line, which is a trace. And so this concrete. Let's see here, it originates from that concrete wall. And notice all the lines going out. That's a 25mm armor-piercing round from a LEB-25 impacting the wall, fragmenting on exit, and spraying out like that. Let's look at the other side. See, that's where the bullet came in, or the shell. It's flying, and see here the target was that BTR-70, and you see here the traces. The shooting position was all the way up at the Regina Tower, and this is a distance of from here to Morton. That's a distance of about 2.9 kilometers. Okay, I see here I was shooting at the BTR. All the impacts. You see the thing that went into the wall, and through the wall flew over the BTR. You can see it here. It went like this. Here, fragmented, got like that. And now see what happened with the inside of the BTR. Here, it got hit by several rounds. You see every single one of them on impact fragmented on the other side, and you see that would probably have destroyed everything inside. Now the cool thing is that thing was, as I said, it was fired from 2.9 kilometers up here. And notice how everything is still, how the lines are still green. And green means it's pretty close to its original muzzle velocity when it basically started coming out of the gun. And when it's red, it's pretty close to zero velocity, proportionally to the start velocity. And now, why I'm showing you this, it's because if certain settings in this game would be exposed to server admins, then you could set up gameplay where somebody could park an LEB-25 up here, 3 kilometers away from Morton, see Morton, and actually shoot into Morton, and see the targets in Morton. Because with the current gameplay settings, that's not possible. Okay, let me show you. Okay, so I jacked up all the settings I could, and some extra hidden settings to make this possible. Okay, so first thing I did was to set the draw distance to 5 kilometers. By default, it's set to 2 kilometers, or I think 1.5 kilometers if you play multiplayer. I think it's 1.6 kilometers. See, that's what you normally see in multiplayer. And there's another setting in the source settings. I'm not sure what the name of it was right now. It's basically it's the network bubble around the character where the player receives information around the things happening around him. And I think that is set to 1.5 kilometers. And those two settings you can actually increase in source settings. But there's some other settings that you still need to increase to make gameplay like this possible. Let's go back to 5 kilometers. This was a binocular, and that's an artillery binocular. That's 12 times magnification. You see here, there's a BTR. Place several BTRs, one up here, and even one up here. And that's 3.5 kilometers away. And with normal settings, you would never see that. So let me show you. Okay, you go to the debug settings, and what was that setting again? Was it under render? I'm not sure it was render. Was it scene? Yeah, it was here, the scene. You got the LOD multiplier, but this basically shows you how detailed the LOD is. Okay, let's go like this so you can see it. If you increase that, I think you get more detailed object at a distance. You can crank it up to 10 times. Notice the FPS is still sort of acceptable. It's 51 right now. If I go out of binoculars, it goes down a bit by about 8 FPS. And I'm playing this on 1920 resolution on a 460 GeForce. And if you zoom in like that, it's actually less FPS intensive because you have a narrower view angle, which means less objects have to be drawn. Okay, now the LOD settings, they actually don't increase the range of things you can see. They just make them look more detailed as a distance. Okay, let's go back to 1 again. Now, the size multiplier is by default on 1. It's 0.001. That's basically, I think, a scaling factor on... Basically, if you have a larger object, it will be visible at further distances than a small object. That's, I think it's a multiplier for that. So it's a normal settings. This is what you normally would see in normal game settings. And that setting is not exposed to multiplayer server settings. Notice, I set it to 1.5, just 1.5, and already the BTRs 3 kilometers away are visible. And that's one of the settings the game should expose to server admins. Now, it could cause performance issues, but if you with your community want to play at higher detail and range settings, I think it should be a possibility. Set it up to 10. Now, the one problem is friendly or any soldier AI is only visible to about to 1 kilometer if you use binoculars. Like, I didn't find any gameplay settings that would render soldiers at a farther distance. But in real life, at 3 kilometers, with that magnification, you probably would be able to see a person walking on that street. And that's a setting the game should also allow. And I made a really long point in the video, and the reason for that is because it creates strategic gameplay that currently is limited by the draw distance. Let's go back into Zeus view. So for example, you're sitting up here in Regina Tower, and with default settings, you basically can see in a radius like that. And there are certain weapon systems in this game that only reach their full potential of advantage when they can really outrange other weapons. As for example, the 25mm, you can see here it's green, and it remains green all the way up to there. Now if I, for example, shoot, let's go back to, let's take the Russian 50, and a bit like that. The cool thing is you can actually pause and watch the bullets as they impact. Notice here, notice how it gets redder, because it's a smaller round than the 25mm. I think there's different ballistics to it, and less gunpowder behind it proportionally, which means it slows down faster. See how air resistance basically slows it down, and it starts bouncing and impacting. But it's still a useful weapon. Like, I tried it. If you shoot that weapon at a BTR at that distance, it won't penetrate. But it will still take out enemy players. Now imagine if you could have the strategic depth in this game with that draw distance. Let's say you set up a machine gun or LOE-25. Then you can basically have fire. I think the term for it is fire control in real life. You can use the hill as strategic location to have fire control over Morton. So any vehicle coming down the Morton well would be spotted and be taken under fire. And imagine the strategic potential you have for gameplay now. Because you don't just have like the ability to camp from here to here on the road, or perhaps camp the road to attack something over here, but you could put weapon systems in place over here that can shoot 2 or 3 kilometers across like that, across the bay to hit something. I think it would really change the game to a strategic level, because it, first off, recon gameplay would be much more interesting, because we'll have players sitting on the hill informing their friendlies that there's some enemy coming in from 3 or 4 kilometers away. And basically for weapon systems too, so you can put it in another place on the map, like Montignac has some elevation, but not that much. Let's go to the Entre Deux Tower. See, you can put some type of heavy machine gun jeep or machine gun vehicle up here, and you can almost watch the entire approach road like that. So that's why I would like to make the video. I want to suggest to the developers, if anybody's watching, to basically expose all the gameplay settings that make it possible for players and vehicles to get spotted at 3 or 4 kilometers distance. Like 5, 6, 7, 8 kilometers is probably not necessary in everyone, because the topography of the terrain. Like, you almost never have a sight line because of this, the slightly hilly terrain that reaches further. And I think Arma Reforger is the ideal game for that, because it has a map that's large enough. In Squad, most maps are only 2 by 4 kilometers or even smaller, so you don't really need that. But in a game like that, not just having the ability to shoot that far, but actually to perform recon that far, and trying to strategically outmaneuver an enemy team, or just placing weapons in the right spot that have a reach of 2 or 3 kilometers. But to put it in sort of a metaphor, imagine you have a realistic sword fighting game, and you have long swords, great swords, short swords, knives, and then everybody has to fight each other in a broom closet.